Today on Retire Right, I'm coming to you live from Portland, Oregon. I'm here at a conference called Fincon. We are recording about mid-September, and this conference is a financial creators conference, and I run an online business. I do financial content. Part of that is Retire Right, and there are close to 1,500 personal finance creators from all across the US who come to Fincon. So today I'm talking with Joe Saul-Sehy. Is that how I pronounce it?
That is. Nice work, man.
There you go. Joe has been on the main Money podcast before over the various years that I've been up. But this is the first Fincon I've been to that we have had the Retire Right podcast, and it is our second biggest podcast and our fastest growing podcast, Joe.
Excellent. Well, there's a lot of us, man. I'm 57, so
Yeah.
I'm right there.
And it's not every day that you sit down and chat with someone who saved your life. Yesterday, when we were walking back to the hotel, we were deep in conversation, and we were crossing the road. And I looked, and there was no cars coming.
No, so we're good.
We're good, but I'm not in Australia. So thank you for saving my life.
You're going the wrong way. I think actually, in fairness, the woman behind us saved both of our lives. Because I am from America, and I didn't even look.
Well, there you have it. Now, before we get into it, can you explain a little bit about your history, what you do? Because I jokingly tell people that Joe is basically me in 15 years. We've got some good qualities,
I'm you in 15 years if you let yourself go.
Yeah, that's right.
Me.
We're both awesome. We're both hilarious. We're both retired financial advisors. We're both doing money podcasts. So tell us about your story. We'll set the scene.
God, I was a financial advisor for 15 years. But before that, I was a mess with money. And before I became a financial advisor, I had a friend who was recruiting me into the business who said, and I quote, "We normally don't hire people like you, but I think you'd be good at this." And the reason was I was an English creative writing major. I had no finance background, but I'm naturally a storyteller, as you know, and as you are. And I can talk to people about things like the person next door. And I was always fascinated by money. So I go into this training program, and of course I did very well. But I thought the rules of the world didn't apply to me. As I'm giving other people advice, as I'm learning what works, I didn't apply any of that stuff myself. So I was an advisor for a good 6 years before all of a sudden I looked at my debt levels. I looked at the fact that I hadn't saved a dime. My clients are getting wealthy on tips that I'm giving them, and I'm not applying any of them. And so I think there's two lessons that I learned during that time, which was number one, you can't out-earn bad money habits. I always thought if I just make a little more money, life will get good. Yeah. It doesn't matter. My first year as a financial planner, and this was 1993, so a long time ago, but in today's dollars, that would be like making about $170,000 US dollars. So
good salary.
A lot of money for a first year job. You know what though, Glenn? I made 170. I spent 200.
Yeah.
Had I made 200, I would have spent 220. If I made 220, I would have spent 240. I had no systems. So that was number one. Number two was who you surround yourself with matters. When I decided to get out of debt, I realized my best clients were surrounded by great people. Some were paid help that were great, and some were just good mentors around them. And so I created this board of directors around me, and I remember I was so in debt that these credit agencies were calling me, and I stopped answering the phone, right? And I remember feeling like I was completely screwed. About a month into my debt payoff journey, which took about 5 years, by the way, I felt completely different. Nothing had materially changed, but the fact that I realized that I was in control. And now I had a plan, and I had good people around me, and I had systems in place. Nothing had changed. The creditors were still calling me. I still wasn't able to pay my bills completely on time yet, but I felt so empowered, and it was wild. And then it became a game. Like, how fast can I do this? So that was the early days. At age 40, I sold my financial planning business. I was inspired by a guy who climbed the biggest mountains in the world. And he said, "I really like being a financial planner, but I don't love it. It's about 90% good, but it's not 100% good." And I realized that was me. So at the height of my career, when really things are cranking, I sold my business and went into ultimately financial media so I could start a podcast, so I could meet Glen James.
And here we are. Thanks for listening today. You've been real, everyone. So Stacking Benjamins, it's quite popular in the US. Like you've got a really large audience.
Yes. Yeah.
Vince Scully, who you've met.
I have, and he was in Bali with me.
Yes, that's right. And Vince, like, I love Stacking Benjamins because it's like that old 80s Irish radio or some like old radio or something like that.
Right, like morning drive radio.
Yeah, that's right. So tell us about Stacking Benjamins.
Yeah, we call it the greatest money show on earth, but because of the hyperbole and because, as you know, Glenn, it's a circus, right? It's a variety show. We actually patterned it not after morning radio, but a lot of people call it that, more after a show in America called The Tonight Show. And so it has segments. We play games. We have mentors on and smart people, but it really has a you can do it attitude. You know, we had a mountain climber on recently, speaking of mountains, Jen Drummond, who was the first woman to climb the second highest peak on every continent, which in some places is harder because the top peak gets all the popularity. And so the routes up the second peak are more of a struggle. There's fewer companies helping people, but she did that. And it's funny because people that don't know our show think, why would you have a mountain climber on talking about money? Because if a mountain climber, if she can climb the second highest peaks around the world as a normal human being, you can start saving money. You can attack your credit card debt. You can do these things that scare you a little bit. So it tries to be a motivational show. We try to have a motivational show.
And that's kind of like, I really want to set out to do infotainment because I want to entertain people.
Sure.
But I want them to learn. And anytime I pick up a microphone, I want to do at least 2 of 3 things. 1, add value.
Yeah.
2, have fun. 3, give some practical advice. And if I can get 2 of 3 of those, you know, some episodes it will be dry, it won't be fun, but it'll be valuable and practical.
Absolutely.
So,
well, and I feel like if it's, you know, sometimes I get ripped by people that are overly serious about, oh, you don't take it seriously. Are you kidding me? You know, the best way to learn is to laugh.
Yeah.
Comedians have so much truth in their comedy. Like we get through so many barriers by using comedy as frankly a teaching technique.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. My name is Glen James, joined by Joe Saul-Sehy, and you are listening to Retire Right.
This is a podcast that will help you plan and execute one of the biggest moments in your life. That's retirement. You'll learn how to set up your finances in a way that benefits you, your lifestyle goals, and keeps you in the know within this complex world of money and investing. Your host is Glen James, former financial advisor, author, and host of the popular Money, Money, Money podcast. Glen is joined by experts in various fields around the topic of retirement in Australia. Any advice in this podcast is of a general nature. Full details are in the show notes of this episode. You only retire once, so retire right.
Joe, what makes a successful investor in your mind?
I think it's a plan, starting with somebody who starts with a plan of what they want. And the reason for that is this. When we first start investing, we think, what is the best? What is the best investment? How do I make more money more quickly? And when you start chasing those things, you make mistakes. And it's far easier to not make mistakes if you begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey famously said, right? So if I start out with, I want this, and I want this, and then we work backward to this very easy equation. How much money do I need to save? What rate of return do I need equals the goal? Now I have these 3 levers that I can look at. The first one is I need to save. Let's say I need to save $400 a month. And I don't have $400 a month. Well, then I can either change the goal or I can raise the return. Now I can raise the return, but the more I raise the return, the higher the standard deviation gets, to get a little nerdy, but the higher the risk gets and the more likely it is we might miss the target.
So I'll just jump in there because a lot of people, to be frank, compliment me on explaining things.
I do all the time.
I'll pull you up there. You said standard deviation.
Yes.
So just so people can understand, how would you explain that simply? Like if we're targeting 5% with cash, we're pretty much going to hit that. But if we're in a high risk investment, it could deviate either side of that.
This is my favorite risk metric.
Yeah.
And let me do this through an analogy. I am naturally a nervous flyer. And if the pilot doesn't say anything over the intercom and we hit turbulence, I immediately think they're up there, Glenn, screaming like you know, and the plane's going down, the
but
things
it's
are
business
beeping.
as usual for them.
That's right. That's right. But if they come on ahead of time, like they most always do, and they're like, hey, we're turning on the button, fasten your seatbelt sign because there's going to be some turbulence ahead. And I put the seatbelt on and then I feel the turbulence. Then I'm like, oh, the pilot said this is what it was going to be.
So there's been set expectations almost.
Absolutely. Standard deviation for me is the expected turbulence.
Yes.
So if I go to a great a website that will show me risk, I try to look at the standard deviation because it'll say maybe the number is 15. Now, this is not, for the nerds out there, this is not 100% accurate, but it's a great place to start. That means that you can get on the top plus 15, on the bottom minus 15 on a normal day. That's not every day, but your first standard deviation is most of the time. So I know in a normal market, this can be plus 15, which is a time when a lot of people high five themselves. Stop high fiving yourself. It's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And when it goes negative 15, you want to jump out the window. Don't jump out the window. This is the normal turbulence for this investment. So if you see standard deviation of 15 or standard deviation of 5, that means plus 5 minus 5, not much. So you talk about your high yield savings account.
Yeah.
Like 0,
Yeah.
Standard deviation. You look at a small company fund, you're going to have maybe 20. So it's going to bounce around a lot.
So bringing in back to your point, if you don't have the money to achieve your goal, you may have to take a higher risk, which means the risk that you're taking, that pendulum or the standard deviation may swing more.
I used to love this with clients.
Yeah.
Because I could look at the standard deviation and I'm like, this could be negative 20%. And the first thing they say when I said that, Glenn, was always, that's fine, I'm good. I'm like, no. Let's put it this way. You have $1 million, let's say. You just lost $200,000. They're like, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
I go, no, that's not different. That's 20%.
Yeah. Okay, so
start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Start
Bit
with
of
the end in mind makes a
teaching
successful investor.
Yeah. And these questions, if you are in our world, you may hear me when I talk with people on the This Is Investing podcast. I do these short 10-minute episodes called The 10 Questions with different guests and kind of do the same questions. But I've just used these because they're really good questions. The guy who came up with them is just brilliant.
Perfect. I wonder who did that.
Yeah, a saint, if you will.
Who could that have been?
A saint, if you
People
will.
love him.
So I've just used them for the, the fodder for us to chat with today.
Sure.
Now, you're mid-50s.
Yeah,
give
57.
or take, standard deviation.
That's right.
Of 2.
Plus 2.
Yeah. How old is your spawn now?
30. I have twins that are 30.
Yeah, okay. So you're in a stage now in your life where the money tap somewhat turned off to the kids.
Yes.
You've got your own financial goals and everyone's got an income, everyone's got expenses, and everyone's got a future to plan for.
Sure.
Speaking to someone who might be listening who is north of 55, south of 60, what are you doing with your investing? Are you capping out retirement savings or are you still putting it in ordinary money? Like, how are you doing your investing and has it changed?
It has not changed for a long time.
Right.
Because back when I was in debt and I realized I needed a plan. I need a plan for everything. And one of the first things I did, because I saw it be so successful with my clients and managing money for other people, was something called an investor policy statement, which means instead of deciding what I'm going to do today, tomorrow, whatever day, I've got these policies. So I use, first of all, I start off with any tax shelter I can find.
Yep.
So for me, I have a tax shelter for my company. I prioritize that. That's number one. Number two then is my emergency fund full? Because of the fact, Glenn, I'm still a spender. I'm the same spender I was back before I was good with money. So I have all these devices to make sure that I'm not going to screw it up, you know? So what I do is make sure that is there, because if I see a shiny object, I'll probably go buy it.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that's funded. But then I want flexibility. So I try to have another side of what I call the tax triangle. One is pre-tax money. One is post-tax that's going to be tax-free. And then the third is just flexible money in a brokerage account that I can have invested, but I don't have to worry about all the rules about how I'm going to take this money out. That's the one, by the way, that most money geeks that I know, like they're like, no, I want it all in the tax shelter. When I was a financial planner, man, the tax shelter was a two-sided coin.
Yeah. And for
when
those
you're putting
listening,
it in, it's great. When you pull it out, it's a nightmare.
That's right. So with superannuation, it is the best tax shelter that you can get in Australia, but you can't get the money out until you retire after age 60,
Right.
or you're still working and you're over 65. So
Right.
that's the trade-off, isn't it? It's like I can pay less tax, but I can't access my cash.
And if it's the same as in the US, and I bet because this is just psychological,
Yeah.
when it's in the tax shelter, you don't want to take it out because you don't want to pay the tax.
Well, yeah. So, and this is where we probably shouldn't go into the weeds too much. In Australia, once you stop working, you can convert your superannuation into a tax-free pool.
Excellent.
Because the money anyway. So
Yes. Yeah.
I think conceptually what you're saying is try and have a bit in both camps.
Yeah,
Maybe?
yes, but there still is an issue,
Right.
which is, as an example, in the U.S., that would be a Roth IRA.
Yes.
Very similar thing. People still don't want to take the money out because they're like, that is my fund for later. And then they live less while they're healthy.
Yeah.
The average healthy life, I don't know what it is in Australia, but it can't be that far off the US. In the US, the average healthy life expectancy, not life expectancy, but healthy, is 66 years old.
Yeah.
So after age 66, you're around, but you can't do all those cool things you dreamed about doing before. So the hard thing for people is to spend money while you're still young, when you're in your early 60s, to get out there and do things.
It's funny. A lot of, and particularly my parents and other people that I know that are in their 70s who have stopped work and they've got their big retirement pool because they've had mandated savings for many years. Once the house is paid off, you actually live better in retirement. But the psychology of it is,
Isn't that funny?
you know, you might retire and there might be $800,000 or $900,000 with a couple. Money's not the problem. They're still living off $1,000, $1,200 a week. They've never in their life spent $20,000 in one go on an international holiday. So the psychology kicks in. It's like, I've retired. I've got access to a heap of cash. If I spent 20, 30, 40 grand on an international holiday and lived, it wouldn't move the needle or change our life financially. But because we've never, ever spent that money before,
Right.
and like we spend our whole life saving in our retirement savings,
Right.
stop working overnight, the switch doesn't flick from saving, spending.
Yeah.
It might never flick.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't all of a sudden become a spender that was a saver their entire life.
Yeah. And so in your life with your wife, it's Cheryl, isn't it?
Yeah, Cheryl.
Is she involved? Is she into money like you are, or is she an informed participant, or is she the driving force?
Yeah.
And she stops you from spending all the bloody money.
What was that? Yes.
Yeah.
But the answer to that is funny and a little bit nuanced, which is, so when I was a financial planner, the big problem that I saw was that one person was into money and the other person was not.
Yeah.
I'm into money, Cheryl's not. And that was a huge problem because if the person that was into money died or became incapacitated, all of a sudden I'm sitting across from the other member of the family that I don't really know. They don't know anything about what they're doing. So we had to be on the same page. Cheryl and I, because I'm a spender, had another problem. In the 90s, when I was bad with money, we would both come home with things that were important for our family. She would come home with kids' school clothes and groceries, huge for the family. I would come home with equally important things like the latest board game, hugely important, right? And we wouldn't talk ahead of time. And because of that, there was a lot of friction, which was frankly worse than being broke, was the fact that my wife and I weren't on the same page. So we implemented this thing, which is a weekly meeting.
Right.
With our money. And I love the weekly meeting. It's only 20 minutes long, Glenn. We do it over pancakes or wine, depending on what time of day it is. It's very fun. We put on a little music. All we do is three things. We go over the bank statement online. Well, how did we spend money last week? We talk about how we're going to spend money next week. And then if we have any time left over, then we kind of just talk big picture. That's it. Twice a year, we rebalance the portfolio. So that takes a little longer. And we look at our investments just twice a year. That's it.
Okay, I want to double click this a little bit more. So there could be people listening to this who are, and there are people that are listening in their 50s. What if like, how do they broach the topic? Because it'd be very rare for both a husband and wife to be listening to Retire Right together.
Sure.
Like, it probably happens.
Yes.
But more so than not,
Yes.
one will be I'm into money podcast. I'm the driver
Yes.
and all that stuff. How does someone start to negotiate after maybe being together for 20, 30 years and go, crap, we've never really had a good communication with money? How do you start to do that? Do you go, look, you got to sort something out? Do you go to marriage counseling? Like, I don't know.
Hopefully not. I'll give you a do and I'll give you a don't. The do is tell them what I just said, which is this. Glenn, I know that as my spouse, I love money topics and you don't, but I'm just afraid that if I die and I know where everything is and you don't, it's going to really, really be bad. So I'd love to have some time where we meet every week, maybe for just 10 minutes, and we walk through the bank statement and we kind of slowly over time, we don't have to do it right away, but we slowly, and I promise, by the way, we will set an alarm for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And so that's the do. Tell them what the dark side is if we don't meet. But the don't, and this is where money nerds get in trouble. Money nerds get in trouble because, U.S. presidents go to this place called Camp David when they have a big summit. Money nerds want to have a Camp David summit about money. They want to have charts and graphs and 6 hours long and bore your spouse to tears. They don't want anything to do with that. So it has to be fun and it has to be short. And when that timer runs out, and I would set the alarm, end it. Because it's about doing it every week. It's not about covering everything right now. And I'll tell you what happens with Cheryl and I, because, Glenn, when I was talking about the topics we cover, we don't cover the big topics. So the question I get a lot of the time is, well, when you talk about the big topics, what I've found is if Cheryl and I get on the same page about the little things, we love to take long walks together. Guess what happens naturally on the long walk?
The big things come up.
Yeah. But if we don't have the meeting for a month because we're busy people, those big things never come up. But if every week we talk about the little things, then all of a sudden we're like, so when do you think you really want to retire? Like, what's going on with the whatever market or, whatever the thing might be, or life insurance or whatever it is. We tend to talk about those if we've had the weekly money meeting.
Yeah. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. If you would like help based on your own personal situation, head over to retireright.com.au, click Get Help, and we'd be happy to introduce you to one of our trusted professionals. Our panel of vetted financial advisors and mortgage brokers work with people all over Australia, so they can connect with you wherever you are. That's retireright.com.au and click Get Help.
All right, we are back. Now, I just want to maybe continue this a little bit because it is so important. And this is where it's the dance between facts and feelings. Like, the facts are we're all checking out of this place. We're all going to die.
Right. What's that joke? None of us get out of here alive.
That's right. Exactly. But the feelings of it, like, I'm going to say something now that's factual, and I'd probably say it to my parents' face because we've got that relationship, but it's not really good in terms of emotional feeling. Now, my parents will die. I will die. You will die. I hope to God my dad dies before my mum. Because she does all the bills. She was doing the car insurance, like all this life admin-y stuff. He married his mum, like she cooks, like
right,
all that stuff.
right.
Like, and that's it. Like, so that's factual. We're going to die. They're going to die. If we could pick, it would be probably easier for mum to live alone than for dad to live alone.
Wow.
I think.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to talk to and if you are, like, we've got listeners who listen to this who are in their 30s and 40s. even though it's targeted at 10 years out from retirement. And I think it is one of those conversations we need to start having about, okay, you know, like when the Queen died, not that you care, you people, you know.
I care intimately.
Yeah. Well, there was a whole plan. What was that, Operation Hawk or whatever they called it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I don't know if we need a state plan for our partners, but I think it's just a conversation, right?
It is. You have to have that conversation. I think it even goes bigger than that, which is, what do we do if we have a catastrophic illness and we can't take care of ourselves? I think that is, in America, it's the biggest problem in financial planning because it can be so expensive. And it doesn't mean insurances. I think people start with insurance and they're like, yeah, I can't do it. Well, that's still not a plan. I don't need insurance. I need a plan. What am I going to do if I can't take care of myself? And then what are we going to do when we inevitably pass away?
Actually, you reminded me of something. When we started the episode, I wanted to talk about something. I was talking to someone the other day on a podcast. You know how when you interview a guest on a podcast and they say something and you think, oh, something up with that comment, but I just need to process that and we move on.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, it's like, I want to call that guy and tell him that it's wrong. And so he made this comment around investment fees, around, I use the cheapest investment because of this, because, often there could be an investment that has a higher fee, but the after-tax return is higher than the lower fee one. He's like, oh no, I just do the low one because at least I can control the fees. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I was thinking, it's like, you can't control the fees because they could change them tomorrow. That's a fallacy. So then what I was thinking.
And I also think it's ridiculous to not want the higher return.
That's exactly.
If it's valuable, I'll pay for it. If it's not valuable, I don't pay for it.
Yeah, it's pretty fundamental. But then I was thinking more, like, there's one thing that we can actually control, and that's our financial strategy. You can 100% control your strategy. I like to talk a lot about strategy and then tactics. So we have got our strategy, and then if there's an event that we've talked about, like if someone falls off the perch early,
love it.
This tactic will,
yeah.
So
springs into play.
So all that strategy, control, it's on the table. Pick at it like a dead carcass and make any comments.
Well, no. This goes back to what we talked about originally, and I like how this is a circle. You know, people wonder how you and I think.
Yeah.
And we've talked enough that we feel very similarly about this. This is where that begin with the end in mind really works. It's impossible to have a strategy for best rate of return. It's impossible to have a strategy around more money, but it is easy to have a strategy going, Glenn, I want to take this wonderful European vacation in 5 years. I want to spend X amount of money. Fantastic. You know, golf is, very popular around the world.
And boring.
You know what's funny? I love it for like 12 holes.
Yeah.
At the start of any golf, because it's so beautiful out there.
Yeah.
At the start of any time I play golf, which is once a year, whether I need to or not, somebody invites me. I'm like, okay. And I go out, I'm on hole 1, hole 2. I'm like, why don't I do this more? I get to hole 12. I'm like, what the hell am I still doing out here?
And you don't play golf. You do try golf.
That's right. Good point.
Yeah.
But a key to golf, I know enough about golf, and I think everybody who's not a golfer out there is like me. Most of the key to golf is not hitting the perfect shot. It's about staying out of the bad places. And it's the same thing, I think, in finance. It's not about nailing that home run investment. It's about avoiding the dumb mistakes.
I've just thought of a really dumb analogy, and I'll go with it.
That's
you're
why
welcome,
that's
everyone.
why I love you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So with golf, and I'm like you, I'll play it. If I play it once every 5 years, it's been a big event.
Yeah, right.
I've found I'm a better golf player when I'm not stressed, which is fine. But when it comes to Glen James is giving golf tips, run.
Bad idea.
You've got to let the club do the work. The harder you try, the worse
You get.
that you get. So you get all these like people online that want to optimize the best investment, and we're trading and this is my portfolio, trying really hard. What about let the investments do the work and just you focus on shoveling money in? What about you let the club do the work and you just focus on having a good stance and patience?
It's incredible. We are, as beings, action-oriented, and we think if something's wrong, how do I fix it? I go do something.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing for us as humans is finance is often better, as you know, when you do nothing. It's one of the few things in life where doing nothing is often the best thing to do.
I've resolved in my life, in terms of equity investing and my retirement assets, I'm okay with market returns.
Sure.
And if we build, and a lot of people will see a financial advisor, and the advisors that I refer people to, they're not going to project like, oh, we've done this 3, 5 year, 10-year projection, 12%. Like really, it'll be quite conservative, because I think it's really good to be conservative, have room for error.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't know. I just...
Well, and if you go high flying, again, back to standard deviation, if you go with a high flying investment, you have to tolerate a lot of up and down, a ton of volatility. And I'll tell you, as a guy who's worked with a few hundred families over 16 years, I will tell you the problem is rarely that investment. It's usually a diversified thing, so it's not going to blow up.
Yeah.
My problem is it's not sticky, Glenn, because the client jumps out of the airplane.
Yeah, investing works, people don't.
That's right.
And that's what I've really just resolved in my life.
It has to be, the volatility has to be at a point that you can tolerate it and stay in the plane.
Yeah. Well, we've chewed the fat, as they say. We've had a lot of fun. We've gone a lot of places. We've talked about death. We've talked about golf. We've talked about your wife.
Airplane rides.
Airplane ride. I was saying to Luke's here in the States with us filming, and I was saying, I want to be on a plane one day where the turbulence is so bad that the pilots actually get worried.
Oh, God.
I just want to know what that feels like that real extreme.
Better you than me.
Yeah. Final comments, anything maybe I haven't asked you that you would want to tell people or say?
I know that a lot of people listen to and watch shows like this because they're worried and they think they're behind, and I think a good thing to remember is worrying about the past does you no good. It just, you can't do that. There's that great, I think it's Winston Churchill, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. You can't do anything about that. Plant it today.
Yeah.
So just start where you are. Be okay with the fact that, you know what, I'm beginning. Be excited about the fact you're beginning. Don't think about ahead or behind. Think about, I'm better than I was yesterday. And I think that, for me, is the key when you're starting late.
Yeah, love it. You can listen more to Joe on Stacking Benjamins, the podcast, wherever you're listening to podcasts. My name is Glen James. This was Joe Saul-Sehy. Thanks for coming on Retire Right.
So good to see you, brother.
Thanks, Joe. See you, everyone. Bye.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive, Pty Ltd, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds Financial Services Licence 451289. Martin McGrath, Financial Edge Group, and its employed financial advisors are authorised representatives of Synchron Advice, AFSL 243313. Opinions or comments from any guest on the podcast are theirs, and not those of the hosts, the publisher, or their respective licence holders.